The issue opens where we see Steve Rogers, Captain America, sending out distress signals to the remaining heroes so they can rally together after the main Avengers team were taken out by the Marvel vampires. We then see the super soldier take on the vampire hordes in the city streets, remarking that the world was at war and that he needed an army. We would see that the buff boy in blue was not alone, as he was soon joined in battle by the likes of the mighty Hercules, who sliced into the undead with the sword of Apollo, where he was soon joined by Kate Bishop, Quicksilver, and Hazmat, forming their new Avengers team. Honestly, this is an unexpected and rather cool lineup. I'd say the MCU should do this, but they seem allergic to stuff that's actually cool lately. Wrapping up this battle amidst the ongoing war, Cap thanked the group for answering his call, where conflicted Quicksilver asked him just why he was here instead of saving his sister Wanda, who was missing in action after being attacked by the Blood Coven. Comforting the young man, Steve asked Pietro for his patience, for by rallying together, they would be able to defeat the hordes plaguing this earth and save their fellow heroes who were being held captive. During this time, Cap and the rest had been dealing with just wild, unorganized vampiric armies, but he received intel that there were more powerful forces behind the scenes that were organizing everything, and he planned to get to the bottom of it. Loading up into their pretty sweet looking flying Avengers car, the gang took off in search of these forces, where they came across them much sooner than expected, where they discovered full-on Nazi vampires who were rounding up captive humans to harvest them for their blood. Man, this story just got way more ridiculous and goofy, and I am so here for it. As one of the officers prepared to torture a group of people, he was quickly and rightfully staked by Quicksilver, who was all too excited to tear these dudes apart. As the heroes engaged the enemy, Quicksilver noticed that Cap's shield was not flying as smoothly as it normally does, where Steve told him that this was not his OG, for this one had been recently made, which he was still getting used to, as it was edged in silver after he was turned into a werewolf. Yeah, you heard that right. There is a full-on recent story on this, which I do absolutely need to cover at some point. With Hazmat thinking this sounded nuts, it was not strange at all to Hercules, who said that he too was transformed into a Spider-Man not too long ago. I looked it up, and yes, this is indeed a thing, and it looks awesome. Kate Bishop then started asking the important questions, like where were these Nazi vampires coming from? Quicksilver then responded by saying that it didn't matter, for they were all monsters that needed to be destroyed, where he was suddenly clotheslined by a giant vampire officer. With the mutant in his grasp, the officer told him that they represent the superior race, and planned to use these inferior beings as their livestock, only to get his head completely chopped in half by Captain America, who remarked that he was getting used to this shield after all. As the monsters burned behind him, Steve let out the most Giga Chad response by saying that he's known good vampires who did not ask for their curse and wished to help, not harm others, but in all his years of living, he's never known a good Nazi. That gets an absolute hell yeah. Another reason why Steve Rogers is, and always will be, the GOAT. Rounding up the survivors, Cap promised he was going to get them somewhere safe, where suddenly, an obligatory blue sky beam ignited, which actually ended up being a vortex beam, which began to suck all of them towards a giant Nazi-branded helicarrier in the sky. Once aboard the craft, Steve told the heroes to stay alert and form a perimeter around the humans, where Hazmat went to EMP the ship to smithereens, where Hercules, normally the one to be all about blowing stuff up, said perhaps this was not the best idea for the survivors, and them, for they were all still kinda aboard the ship that she planned to blow up. Before anything could get exploded though, Cap was soon met by a familiar voice who was behind these organized forces. That voice belonging to the vampiric Nazi commander from years past, the demented, yet brilliant, Baron Blood. I honestly thought this was just emo Wolverine with a cool coat at first, but this is dope too.